Rome, a city famous worldwide, especially for its time as the heart of the Roman Empire, has inspired countless movies, series, and books. In today's video, we'll explore some intriguing facts about this empire. Romulus and Remus. The story of Romulus and Remus is one of those ancient legends Romans used to explain the founding of Rome. According to the tale, the twin brothers were the sons of Rhea Silvia, a princess of Alba Longa, and Mars, the god of war. However, their uncle, Amulius, had usurped the throne from their grandfather, Numitor, and wanted to ensure there were no legitimate heirs to challenge his rule. To achieve this, he forced Rhea Silvia to become a Vestal Virgin, a priestess sworn to celibacy. Despite this, Rhea Silvia gave birth to the twins. When Amulius found out, he ordered them to be cast into the Tiber River to eliminate any threat. However, their basket got caught near the Palatine Hill, where a she-wolf discovered the infants and nursed them. Later, a shepherd named Faustulus found the twins and, together with his wife, Acca Larentia, raised them as his own. As they grew up, Romulus and Remus learned the truth about their origins. They decided to overthrow Amulius, restore the throne to their grandfather Numitor, and establish a new city. However, they disagreed on where to build it. Romulus favored the Palatine Hill, while Remus preferred the Aventine Hill. The dispute escalated to the point where Romulus killed Remus and went on to found Rome on April 21, 753 before Christ. Although this story is captivating, many historians believe it is purely a myth. They suggest that the name Romulus was invented to resemble Rome, giving the city a legendary founder. In reality, Rome likely emerged from the unification of several Latin villages in central Italy around the 8th century before Christ. Rome was a monarchy before becoming a republic. Rome transitioned from a monarchy to a powerful republic. In its earliest days, the city was ruled by kings. However, around 509 before Christ, the Romans decided it was time for a change and revolted against the monarchy, marking the beginning of the republic. During this new era, Rome didn't remain stagnant. It began expanding, first conquering the Italian peninsula and then reaching even farther. A major turning point in this expansion was the Punic Wars against Carthage, fought between 264 and 146 before Christ. By winning these wars, Rome secured control over the Mediterranean Sea, which functioned as the main commercial highway of the time. With dominance over these trade routes, Roman commerce flourished. They traded a variety of goods: Egyptian grain, Spanish olive oil, Greek wine, and much more. This vast trade network fueled Rome's growth and strengthened it, paving the way for the mighty empire that remains famous to this day. Social classes in ancient Rome. In ancient Rome, society was strictly divided into classes. On one side were the patricians, the aristocrats, landowners, and political elite. On the other were the plebeians, small landowners, merchants, and laborers who had little to no political rights. Between 494 and 287 before Christ, a movement known as the Conflict of the Orders took place. The plebeians, tired of being excluded, began pushing for more rights. One of their most effective strategies was the secession of the plebs, where they would leave the city altogether, leaving the patricians stranded, especially during times of war. This pressure forced the patricians to make concessions. Over time, the plebeians achieved several key victories. One major gain was the creation of the office of tribune of the plebs, which gave them political representation and the power to veto decisions against their interests. Another crucial reform was the establishment of the 12 Tables, a written legal code that helped protect plebeian rights. Hannibal delivered Rome's greatest defeat. Hannibal Barca, the Carthaginian general who humiliated the Romans on the battlefield. In 216 before Christ, during the Second Punic War, he led Carthage to victory in the famous Battle of Cannae. Despite having a smaller army, Hannibal managed to encircle and annihilate the Roman forces. Estimates suggest that between 50,000 and 70,000 Roman soldiers were killed or captured, while the Carthaginians lost only about 6,000 men. Hannibal was a master tactician. He deliberately weakened the center of his formation, luring the Romans into attacking what seemed like a vulnerable spot. As they pushed forward, the Carthaginian flanks closed in, trapping the Romans in a devastating encirclement, one of the worst defeats in Rome's history. However, despite this overwhelming victory, Hannibal couldn't fully capitalize on his success. In the end, he was forced into exile while trying to protect Carthage, relentlessly pursued by the Romans until the very last days of his life. The beginning of the empire. This era officially began in 27 before Christ when Emperor Augustus took control, marking the true rise of Rome's power and influence. During this time, the Romans were unstoppable, conquering lands, building roads, and spreading their culture across the known world. The expansion was staggering. At the start of the empire, Rome represented only about 1.5% of the world's population, but at its peak, that number soared to 25%. The empire stretched from Western Europe to the Middle East and North Africa, linking different cultures and economies, which only strengthened its dominance. What made this massive expansion possible? Besides a formidable army, the Romans were masters of administration. They built cities, promoted trade, and ensured that Roman law was followed everywhere. This combination of military strength and strategic governance propelled Rome to its golden age. Roman warfare tactics. The Romans revolutionized warfare. They didn't just develop better weapons and strategies, they redefined the very concept of an army. For the first time, soldiers became professionals. They received salaries, underwent rigorous training, and were always battle-ready. But here's an interesting twist. Roman soldiers didn't swear loyalty to Rome itself, but to their general. This gave commanders enormous power, as they had troops willing to fight for them under any circumstances. And as you might guess, this led to plenty of political intrigue. It wasn't uncommon for a general to march on Rome and declare himself emperor. One famous example is Julius Caesar, who crossed the Rubicon River and changed the course of Roman history. However, this system also created political instability, as Rome became a battleground for ambitious generals vying for control. The Battle of Alesia, one of Julius Caesar's greatest victories. The Battle of Alesia took place in 52 before Christ, during Julius Caesar's ambitious campaign to expand Rome's territory. By then, he had already conquered large parts of Europe, but Gaul, modern-day France and surrounding regions, was still resisting. The Gauls were led by Vercingetorix, a formidable leader who managed to unite several tribes against the Romans. After a series of battles, he retreated to the stronghold of Alesia, believing he could hold out until reinforcements arrived. But Caesar had other plans. He surrounded the city with his forces and built fortifications, not only to trap the Gauls inside, but also to defend against external attacks. Despite being outnumbered, the Romans prevailed. When Gaulish reinforcements arrived, Caesar defeated them as well. With no supplies and no escape, Vercingetorix had no choice but to surrender. This victory was a turning point, securing Roman control over Gaul and expanding the empire into what is now France, Belgium, Switzerland, and northern Italy. Beyond territorial gains, this conquest filled Rome's coffers with wealth from the new lands. It also solidified Caesar's status as one of the greatest military leaders in history, setting the stage for his rise to ultimate power. The importance of Roman aqueducts. The Roman aqueducts were groundbreaking feats of engineering that transformed ancient civilization. These massive structures transported water from distant sources to supply cities, freeing people from total reliance on agriculture for survival. By the late 3rd century, Rome alone had 11 fully operational aqueducts, spanning nearly 800 kilometers. The impact was immense. With a stable water supply, cities could expand beyond rivers and wells, allowing populations to focus on other pursuits like art, politics, engineering, craftsmanship, and specialized industries. The Romans used gravity to keep water flowing through these channels, a brilliant innovation for the time. Thanks to the aqueducts, Rome and other imperial cities flourished, evolving into advanced urban centers. They stand as a testament to how engineering and innovation fueled the expansion and dominance of the Roman Empire. Roman bridges, built to last. Roman bridges are a stunning example of how Roman engineering was designed for durability. Many of these structures, built at the height of the Roman Empire, still stand today, and some are even still in use. A prime example is the Alcantara Bridge in Spain, one of the most famous Roman bridges. Built in 106 CE under Emperor Trajan, this bridge spans the Tigris River with breathtaking architecture. Confident in its strength, Trajan famously declared, "I have built a bridge that will last forever." and he wasn't wrong. The structure has survived centuries of weathering, wars, and environmental changes, proving the skill and precision of Roman engineers. Constructed with massive stone blocks fitted together without cement, Roman bridges were designed to support immense weight and endure for centuries. Their blend of functionality and beauty showcases the Roman philosophy that engineering and aesthetics should go hand in hand. Julius Caesar, never married. Cleopatra in 47 before Christ, Julius Caesar became deeply involved in the power struggles of Egypt, deciding to support Cleopatra against her brother and rival, Ptolemy XIII, in the famous Battle of the Nile. Combining military strategy with strength, they defeated Ptolemy and ensured Cleopatra's crowning as the sole ruler of Egypt. To celebrate their victory, the two embarked on a triumphal procession down the Nile, marking the beginning of a powerful partnership and a romantic affair that would go down in history. Caesar and Cleopatra became lovers, and it's recorded that they had a son together, Caesarion. Despite their strong connection, they never married officially, as Roman law prohibited marriage between a Roman citizen and someone outside the empire. Meanwhile, Caesar had 3 official marriages in Rome, first to Cornelia, then to Pompeia, and finally to Calpurnia. From his first marriage, he had his only legitimate daughter, Julia. The relationship between Caesar and Cleopatra lasted about 14 years, blending passion with politics, as Cleopatra sought to strengthen her position in Egypt while Caesar expanded his influence throughout the Mediterranean. Titus Livius, the historian who chronicled Rome's rise. The historian Titus Livius, or simply Livy, was one of the most prominent figures when it comes to recording the history of ancient Rome. He wrote a staggering 142 books on the subject, starting his work about 200 years after the conquest of Italy. His most famous work, Ab Urbe Condita, which means from the foundation of the city, aimed to chronicle the entire history of Rome, from its mythical origins to the beginning of the 1st century CE. You can imagine how monumental this project was, right? Sadly, time wasn't kind to Livy's writings, and only 54 books from the original collection have survived. Nevertheless, what remains is still one of the most important sources we have about Rome's history, covering everything from its founding myths to the events that shaped the Republic and the early years of the empire.